we're getting really close to October right now. Dodgers are on, the cusp of winning another National League title, but they've been riddled by injuries and kind of they've needed been carried by the offense, specifically the past 2 weeks in this stretch of games. Because even though they've scored like 8 runs in 5, 6 straight games, they lost one of those games because of the pitching. Looking at, you've covered a lot of teams throughout your years of covering baseball, specifically even the Dodgers. Does this team feel any different just because, one of the things we've talked about when we've covered the team this year is, they haven't really faced adversity in a long time. They've had more injuries than they've had ever before to a lot more key players, like losing Mookie Betts, losing Glass now down the stretch now, Gavin Stone on the IL, you name it. They've had over 25 players placed on the injured list this season. Is it different? Are the vibes different? The goal's still the same, but do you see them realistically getting close to that goal this season at least?
Well, one thing I've learned over the years is that adversity in a ball club is relative. Okay, it depends on where you are, and it depends on what type of adversity you're facing. I do think this team, as good as they are, they've got the best record in the National League, tied with the Phillies. They have a chance to be the number one seed if they can pass the Phillies. They're going to win a division. You say, well, nobody's crying for the Dodgers, right? But they have had their own level of adversity. I mean, Tyler Glasnow, yesterday he spoke to the media and said how frustrated he is. I mean, he's done for the season. Kershaw's trying to make his way back. We haven't had Pete Kershaw, and we don't know what we're going to have with Kershaw. We were going to get Dustin May back, but that didn't happen because of it tore his esophagus, and so he's off until spring training. We may get Tony Gonsolin back, but in what role, we don't know. We've had many injuries in the bullpen. We've lost a lot of guys in the bullpen. We lost Yamamoto for a long time, and who knows what kind of a difference he would have made in some games. So the pitching situation has been adverse. Losing Gavin Stone, that really hurts. But you got to find a way to piece it together. Last night was an example of what we might see in a game in the postseason. Do not be surprised if we see a game like that, where you have 8 pitchers over 9 innings. You might have to be forced into doing that at some point in time. But you're going to have Flaherty, you're going to have Yamamoto, Walker Buehler, who's pitching tonight. Really, really rooting for Walker to have another good outing. His last outing was good. He had one bad inning. Other than that, he was really good. And then Landon Knack. All that guy's done is just whatever he's been asked to do. And he goes out there and punches tickets, and he's done a really good job. So then you got that, and you got a possible bullpen game. But the way the games can get spread out due to television and travel during the postseason, you might get extra rest. So they've had their adversity. You mentioned losing Mookie Betts. That hurt. That hurt a lot. And losing Max Muncy for as long as we did. So there's different levels of adversity, but there's always going to be injuries in baseball. There's always going to be something that happens to your team, and you're like, oh no, how are we going to do it? And somebody else has to play, and who knows? Maybe they do a good job. The addition of Tommy Edman's been great. He's been really good, and he can fill a lot of holes. Miguel Rojas is having a career type year. So the adversity they face together. It's been at a different level than I think a lot of other teams have had, whether you look at it as being really bad or not so bad. But they're going to the postseason. And now with the expanded playoff, I call it the tournament, right? Once you get in the tournament, anything can happen. Last year was a great example of that. It's kind of like the Stanley Cup playoffs. It was like Arizona had the hot goalie last year, right? And they couldn't be beat until they got to the World Series. So adversity is part of a 162 game season. It's just part of it. It's woven into it. And you go through it. I've seen it a lot. And I don't know how it's going to affect this particular Dodger team, but I think this Dodger team has enough weapons to get it done in the end. But again, when you get in that tournament, it's baseball and anything can happen.